Hey guys, welcome to Italy. As many of you will know, I love the Hamilton Khaki Field. It is my everyday wearer. This watch is my everyday wearer. But when I got a request from Hamilton to try out their new Khaki Field Titanium in the Dolomites in Italy, I just couldn't pass it down. Take a look at this.
You know, I've said this once and I'll say it again. It's not about the watch, it's where it can take you.
So let's begin at the beginning with Hamilton. They were founded in 1892 and they have served the military for over 75 years. Now, the model that is most popular within the military is of course the Khaki Field. 2 years ago, I got my first Hamilton Khaki Field manual wind and it has served me so well. I've taken this thing everywhere with me, but I have been talking a while about upgrading to a titanium model. I've not got any titanium watches in my collection and I've always wanted one. So when Hamilton offered us the experience of going to the Dolomite Mountains to test out this titanium model, I couldn't turn it down. Welcome to this Chisholm Hunter Special. My name is Harrison as always and we are at Sachida mountain range in the Dolomites, or the Dolomites mountain range. We're about 3,000 meters up. We've been hiking for quite a while and let's start with the obvious about this Hamilton watch. Let's start with the metal type. Titanium is obviously a more durable metal than steel. It's one of the hardest metals you can get on watches. The reason that I like titanium is because of my lifestyle. Out and about like today in the Dolomite Mountains, you need a sturdy watch. And forgive the noise, we're taking off a drone. Now the obvious large change about this watch is of course titanium, and that is the metal of this watch. The thing about titanium is it's a little bit more difficult to work with, and it isn't a negative, but it isn't a positive. It means they're a little bit more expensive. But for your money, I do suppose it is a harder metal. Now if you're like me and come out and about to these kind of mountains, then you need more durable materials. You need titanium. And for a long time I was kind of adverse to the subjects of it. I didn't really like titanium. It was a bit darkened and I wasn't really keen on it. But as I got older and got a bit more mature and also developed a bit of a connection with my Khaki Field that I have at the moment, I started to get more into titanium. And the fact that this is darkened, it's kind of a dark, stealthy watch, I quite like it. Now when you talk about the perfect everyday wearer, one thing that I need to say is it can't be too big. It can't be too bulky. I love my Omega Seamaster, but it's very big, it's very bulky, and the Khaki Field just feels lighter. It feels effortless when you put it on the wrist, and that's because it comes in at 38 millimeters in diameter instead of the 42 that my Omega comes in at. But another difference, and you can perceive this as positive or you can perceive it as negative, is that this is automatic in comparison to my old Khaki Field, which is mechanical. Now because it's automatic, it's a little bit thicker than my mechanical, and that's just because it has that rotor in the back that spins and gives it an 80-hour power reserve. To be honest, I quite liked a mechanical watch. I like that connection that you have and that feeling that you have. You kind of are closer, you have a closer connection to the watch because you wind it more. You pay more attention to it. It's almost like having a manual car versus an automatic. I always felt that I had a better connection to the manual, but the fact it's automatic is better, technically. Before we go any further, it's important to say that Chisholm Hunter are actually authorized retailers for Hamilton watches. And because of Chisholm Hunter and Hamilton, this is why we have this beautiful opportunity to film in the Dolomite Mountains. If you want to see what I'm talking about and get this on the wrist and try it on, head to chisholmhunter.co.uk or head to one of our 29 stores throughout the UK. And that's the end of the plug. Let's get on to the video. The strap on this model comes in cow leather, and it's kind of a khaki green color, kind of faded brown, but I'm not gonna lie, I do prefer the strap on the original Khaki Field that I have. So many drones flying around. I do prefer the strap that I have in the original Khaki Field, which is the NATO strap. So if I were to get this, and it might be the new everyday wearer, I'd put the NATO on it. Right, we've just finished up at this spot. I'm gonna head to the next spot and talk more about this watch, talk about the face, the colors, and then essentially the movement, which is pretty incredible for the money. This is the mountain range just here that we're hiking towards at the moment. This right here seems like a pretty good seat looking over the mountains. An interesting thing about this watch that you might not have noticed is that it actually has an H buckle. Now this H buckle comes in titanium. Personally, I quite like this. It's a bit different, a bit more sporty, and it feels good on the wrist. But I do still prefer that NATO strap. It just feels that little bit better. So we have actually had to sit down because a massive gust of wind came along, so we've had to kind of crouch down. But as I was saying, when you get into the dial, it's a really, really interesting one. And this is where the differences between my old watch, the old Khaki Field, and the new one are coming in. So on the old Khaki Field, it's big, it's bold, it's kind of just black on white, and because of that, it is very, very readable. But fitting in with the dark, stealthy aesthetic of this watch, they've adopted a darker dial. The numerals are darker, and the face itself is black, but they've also added a splash of color. Now, if you guys watch the videos, have been watching my videos, you will know that I love that little splash of color. They've added a tip to the second hand, bright orange, and also some of the numerals around the outside are that bright orange color. It's these tiny little details that make luxury luxury. And this watch, it's nice. Before we move on to the water resistance, which is 100 meters by the way, which is pretty perfect. I mean, I've never personally gone 100 meters underwater, but you might, and if you need to, it has that water resistance. But what I was going to say is if you enjoy these videos, please hit that subscribe button. It really, really helps us, and we're going to be doing more adventures, more trips to the Dolomite Mountains, more trips to Iceland. If you could hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Adding to the durability aspect of this watch, it actually has sapphire crystal glass on the outside. Now, there's a couple of different glasses that watch brands can use. My personal favorite is sapphire crystal. Unless you're wanting to go more vintage, maybe going for the Omega Moon watch and wanting that Hessa-like crystal, sapphire crystal glass is brilliant, and it's so durable. I've taken my Khaki Field out with me everywhere, not got one scratch on it. On the inside of the dial, it actually has a circle around the outside with a more kind of glossy black, and then when you get into the center, it has more of a matte black. Now, again, I love that dial detail. When it comes to dials, I think if they don't have any details to them, they just look a bit bland. But this has a lot of detail. It has that splash of color. It's still highly, highly readable. Now, some may argue that the old Khaki Field is more readable than the new, than the titanium. I beg to differ. I've had this on my wrist for 4 days now, and I've not noticed any difference in the readability. This is a really cool watch, but let's get into the Lume, because that's cool. The Lume on this watch is a little bit more darkened compared to my previous Hamilton Khaki Field mechanical, but it doesn't take away the readability in any way. Even in the dark, I can still read it, but the argument is that it's not as bright. I don't mind that. I think it's still pretty readable. I think it's good. The hands on this watch are blackened, and then obviously you have that splash of orange in the tip of the second hand, making it highly, highly readable. Then the indices and the numerals are big, bold, and they're not pure white. They're kind of coated around the outside in white, and then on the inside they're a little bit more tinted grey, and that again fits in with that bold titanium feel. I would argue that in the military, Khaki Fields are one of the most popular watches because they serve one principle: telling the time. They don't overcomplicate anything, they tell the time, and that's why I'm such a big fan of Hamilton. It's a lot of watch for your money, and this will last a lifetime. There's actually a thunderstorm happening to the left of us, so what we're going to do is go down one stage, just hike down and talk about the movement of this watch. Before we go any further with this watch, let's sit down, relax, and enjoy this beautiful view, because after all, it's not about the watch you choose, it's about where it can take you. I found a little bit of a more quiet area. So the movement in this Hamilton is actually the H10 movement. Now this is an ETA movement, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I would much rather a brand used ETA movements than built their own in-house movements that weren't as good. This movement is a powerhouse. It has 80 hours of power. I'm gonna repeat that because it's mental. 80 hours of power for the price. That is sick. Let's get on to the more detailed bit of the movement though, because it's quite interesting. The movement in this model is an H10 caliber. Its base is an ETA movement. It's obviously automatic, comes in at 25.6 millimeters in diameter, has 25 joules and a whopping 80 hour power reserve. It beats at a frequency of 21,600 VPH. You know, at the end of the day, it's not about the specific watch you choose. You can choose any color variation, any metal variation, anything you want. Everyone has their personal preference. It's not about that. It's about where the watch takes you. And the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical has taken me some pretty incredible places. It will never be sold. It also always has a sentimental piece in my heart. But I do think the time has come for a change. I like titanium, and it's taken me some pretty cool places. See you in the next one.